Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Melinda Hart. You are watching Stamping with Hart. I am an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up, and you can find more information about this project on my blog at www.stampingwithhart.blogspot.com. I also include the links, all of the important links below in the description. I also include the important links in the description box below this YouTube video as well. So welcome. We are going to be doing a one sheet wonder project today using the Forest Friends Designer Series paper. And this is a 6x6 size one sheet wonder. Okay, so we're going to get into all of the measurements and everything in just a minute. But before I do that, I wanted to let you know that I actually have a free project sheet, and you can actually get that link in the description below, or you can also get it by going to my blog. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. These are the 4 cards that feature the 6x6 sheet of Designer Series paper from Forest Friends. So you can see a strip here, a strip here, a piece here, a piece here, a strip here, and then also a strip here. This is a lot of fun. This is actually my first time doing a one sheet wonder, and I absolutely love how it turned out. So this all came about again because I am trying to come up with ideas for the paper share packs that I have. So you may have the Designer Series paper, but you might not have the coordinating product yet. If you do, that's absolutely fantastic, and go ahead and use your stamp set and dies that go with it. If you don't, you can get creative with the stamp sets and the dies that you have at home in your craft room. So we're going to be substituting the stamp set today. If you have the Forest Friends suite, again, go ahead and use that. If you don't, consider using Nuts About Squirrels. Another really nice option for this one would also be Beauty of Friendship. Now, I am not using Beauty of Friendship today. We're going to stick strictly to the Nuts About Squirrels stamp set. And we're going to be using the scalloped contour dies for our layering pieces that we're going to be stamping with today, okay? So I just wanted to let you know that. But let me go ahead and walk you through how to cut your 6x6 sheet so that we can make these cards. Now, these are the 4 cards that I am, showing as the samples, but we're actually going to do a different pattern sheet with the same cardstock and the same stamp set so that you can get an idea for more than just one sheet of paper. But what I really loved here, and if you guys are quick with the eye, you'll notice that I put this square on sideways. Oh, it's always something, right? But I absolutely love the forest theme. So that's what I want to stick with for our 6x6 sheet today. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, consider subscribing if you like crafting tutorials. I do a new video each week. I try to do 2 videos a week if I can. I'm just going to set this aside for a minute. I also have a fun trick for you guys today for your embossing folder. You may or may not know about it, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. But before we get into that, let's talk about how to cut up our 6x6 sheet. So this is a template that you are going to be able to use again and again and again. And there is more than one sheet wonder cut out there. So this is the one that I chose. But if you look up one sheet wonder, you're going to find so many options out there for 6x6s and 12x12s, and they're all so much fun. I really wanted to keep it basic. I wanted to keep it simple, clean lines. We could always get more complicated with angled lines and things like that later, but let's just do something cute and easy, right? So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take our 6x6 sheet and we're gonna cut it in half, and then we're gonna cut it in half again. So you're gonna have 2 3x3 pieces. Then there's going to be 1 scrap piece, and if you guys are really creative, I'm sure you'll find fun, something fun to do with this scrap piece. But just for the sake of this 6x6, this is the one piece we are not going to use in the demonstration today. Okay, so I'm going to set that one aside. That would be a half of an inch by 3 inches, and then we're going to cut the rest of the paper to 2 1/2 inch strips and then 2 1 inch strips. And these are the pieces that are going to become the layers on our card. Okay, so we're gonna cut this up first, and then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna cut our layering cardstock pieces, and I'll give you the measurements for those as well. Now, if you don't wanna cut up your bear, just use your, the woodland background. You know, the one that is just the wood patterns. I don't mind my characters being here, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut. But you can, you know, definitely choose your pattern based on what you want to keep whole and what you don't mind cutting up. I'm going to go to the 3-inch mark, and we're going to cut this. And then we're going to go here, and we're going to cut it at 3 inches again. Okay, so now we have 2 3-inch squares. We're just going to set those two aside. All right, so now we're going to take this strip that's left. We're going to go to the 5.5-inch mark here. And we're just going to trim off that 1/2 inch, which is going to become our scrap, right? So now we have our 2 3x3s, and we have that little piece of scrap. So now what we're going to do is we're going to focus on this 1/2 inch mark right here. And we are going to cut. Now, you would pretty much cut your bear either way, but totally up to you, right? So I'm going to go ahead and cut. And then I'm going to go to the 1/2 inch one more time, and I'm going to cut. Okay, and that gives us our 2 1/2-inch strips. So now we don't need those anymore. And I'm going to set these two over here. We're going to use those. And then what we have left is a 2-inch block. And the way that you can cut this and know that you're cutting it straight is by lining it up between each 1-inch mark here. Okay, so if you line them right up in between the two, you're going to hit the 1-inch mark perfectly, and you're right within your lines, so you know that it's straight. Okay, we're going to trim that down. So we have a really good image of our bear here. We have a good image of our birds, our owls. And keep in mind, if you have any stamp sets that have these creatures or birds in them, use it. So I know Wildlife Wonder has an owl. There are so many bird stamp sets out there. You could do a really beautiful nature bird stamp set with this. If you have any, Wildlife Wonder has a bear, but a completely different type of artwork. Doesn't mean you can't combine the two. So just some fun ideas to keep in mind. Now, the other thing that I want to do with my paper trimmer before I put it away is we're going to cut our card base. So I'm going to do 2 Sahara sand card bases. And I'm going to use this full 8.5 by 11 sheet and cut 2 card bases. And the way I'm going to do that is by going to the 4.25 inch mark. And I'm going to take the lighter of my 2 tools here. So the lighter one is the scoring tool. We're going to score that all along. And then we're going to turn it sideways here. And we're going to go to the 5.5 inch mark. And we're going to take the darker gray, which is our cutting tool, and we're going to cut. Okay, so now we have these 2 really great card bases here. Now we're going to cut off, we're going to trim some extra pieces off of the edge, but before I do that, I want to show you my trick. Okay, and like I said, you may or may not know this. So because this is a woodland theme, a forest theme, I want to bring in, and it's totally optional, but I want to bring in the timber embossing folder. But here's the trick. We're not going to emboss with it. We're going to stamp with it. Okay, so pretty cool. It's fun to do. You have 2 different sides for your embossing folder. We're going to use the side that has the Stampin' Up logo on it. Okay, so the top side of our folder here. We're going to take soft suede ink. Now, whenever you're inking a folder, it can get messy, so protect your surface, okay? Let me just use some scrap paper here. I'm going to use some scrap paper. All right, so you're going to ink up your folder. We're going to take our soft suede ink pad, and we are going to just start inking up the folder. Okay, so we're going to ink, 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 ink. Okay, and we don't have, this is I think a 6 1/4 inch area, and we don't need that much. We only need to cover the one side of the card base to the score line. So keep that in mind as you're inking up. You can ink the whole folder if you want to. It's easier to wash off, but I'm not going to go all the way. Okay. So then the next step will be to just lay this down, and we're going to lay it down at the score line and close it. Okay. So I'm just going to, and it's okay if you're not perfect. It's okay if you're a little bit sideways. It's just going to be our background. So I'm going to close it. And now I'm just going to press down. So we're not technically running this through our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. We're basically just using our embossing folder to create a background stamp. Okay, so if you have a collection of embossing folders and you love the patterns, consider doing this. It's so much fun. Okay, so I'm going to turn it around because you guys aren't really seeing the fun inky side. So here's the fun inky side here. Okay, and then I'm just going to open this up. And I did get a little bit over the line, but it's pretty great. Okay, so there you go. And that is my trick for you guys. That's my trick for you today. It's so cool. So it's not technically embossed. You could emboss it. You can ink it and emboss it and actually get that pattern and that texture going. But if you just want it clean and you just want the pattern, then do it like this and you get a really great look. When we're going to do this, I got some ink over on my hand here. We're going to do the same thing on the other card base, and then we're going to trim these down. So I'm just going to give this a second to dry because there's a lot of ink on this, okay? So let's just set this aside and we'll get ready to do our second one. Now, with the second one, I'm going to do the other side. And because you're going to be closing the folder, you can choose whether or not you want to remove this ink before you go ahead and close it. Now, these are sample cards, right? So I'm just going to leave it messy and I'll show you what happens. But that's just something for you guys to know. You may want to clean this side and then do the other side, or leave this side clean, just re-ink this and press it down again. Okay, so you can choose whichever one you want. I just want to show you the difference in the look. Okay, so we're going to take our ink one more time. And we're going to ink this up, and you can see even inking this that the pattern looks different. Okay, so that's going to give us a different look. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to set this down. Again, I'm not going to be too concerned with it being perfect. If you want perfect, I would recommend embossing it. And that way you should really get it right. Okay. And then I'm just going to flip this over because, again, we're kind of missing out on the fun side. Okay. So you can see the difference that this makes, that this just looks completely, still like a timber tree, but different pattern. Okay. And so there you go. Now, because I didn't remove the ink from the other side, I still have some ink here. Okay, and if you don't want that on the inside, then definitely clean off that side of the folder. But this is a good way for me to show you what that looks like. So let me go ahead and bring in the other one. Okay, and you can see the difference in those patterns. And that is because with an embossing folder, they have one pattern on top and they have the other pattern on the bottom, meaning there's like the emboss and then the deboss side. So here we have that full detail side, and down here we have the less detailed that presses into the paper. So just two really cool timber patterns for you, just so that you know and you can keep in mind. So try to ignore my messy parts here. You could definitely, be cleaner about that than I was, but I just think that it's so cool. And you could even put, a layer on the back if you would want to, but there we go. Okay, so let let me go ahead and close this up. And then we're just gonna get our bone folder. And I am gonna crisp up these edges, but remember, we're actually gonna trim some edge off of each one of these here, and I'll show you why. So let's do the more detailed version first. And then we're gonna get our paper trimmer one more time. Okay, so we have our paper trimmer here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the 1/4 inch mark this time. And we're gonna trim off 1/4 inch, and then we're gonna trim off another 1/4 inch. Okay, so we're gonna trim off our second 1/4 inch here. All right, so we have these two, and now you can see when this card closes, there's a slight gap here. So this is similar to another card that I made recently. I love this little look where we kind of sneak our pattern on here. How cute is that? And then we have our little bear peeking out. So anyway, that's gonna be one base. And then for our other card base, we're gonna do the same thing. And we're gonna do a 1/4 inch. And then another 1/4 inch. Okay, and again, this is optional. All right, and so we have that piece there. Okay, so before I get rid of this, I need to cut some layers. So the other element that I'm gonna bring in now is we're gonna do some layering pieces. And let me get my Calypso Coral cardstock. Okay, so we're gonna take our Calypso Coral cardstock. We're gonna go to 3 1/4 inches. We're gonna cut 2 of these. So 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. All right, and then these are gonna become our layering pieces for these. Okay, so we're just gonna set these to a side. These are also going to become accent pieces to go with our designer series paper. So I'm just gonna set these two aside. All right, and then I have already cut these. So these are the scallop contour dies. And then you're gonna need 4 total, 2 of the larger one and then 2 of the smaller one. So we have all of our template pieces for our designer series paper. I'm gonna set these aside for just a second. Now what we can do is we can do all of our stamping first. So let me bring the cards back in for just a moment. Okay, so here, just for the sake of making it simple, okay, if you're gonna be making a bunch of these at a time. So we used the same squirrel for all 4 cards. We used pretty much the same layout for these 2. I switched this up slightly, and then the same layout for these 2 here. So that's what we're gonna do. And again, there are 2 squirrels in this stamp set, so you could use both if you want to. I'm just gonna use one. Okay, so I'm gonna bring my scrap paper back in, and then let's go ahead and do some stamping. So we're gonna use soft suede, and these are coordinating colors that match the Forest Friends Designer Series paper pack. So that was my thought in terms of the color coordination here. So I'll go through all the colors, but basically we're using soft suede, Sahara sand, old olive, Calypso coral, and mossy meadow. All right, and then I'll go through the embellishments that we're gonna use too. So here, I'm gonna stamp my squirrel's feet right down at the stitched part of the rectangle here and just try to center him. Okay, and then let me get my piercing mat. Shout out to my friend and fellow demonstrator, Roberta Timmons, who sent me this paper piercing mat. So I'm just going to use that so I have some cushion because these are photopolymer stamps. I think it's going to make it a little bit easier. Okay. All right. So here we have an option. We can do the same layout as I did with the other card, or we can do them both identically. So I'm going to just alter the layout slightly. I'm going to do one of each just to give you some ideas of where you can put your sentiments. So this is Old Olive with a happy birthday stamp. And on this card, on this layer, I'm going to put the happy birthday down at the stitched line. And here, I'm going to put the happy birthday above the squirrel. Okay, we need lots of happy birthday cards in the summer, I'll tell you. And here, the next thing we're going to do, we're still going to use our soft suede. So let me get the tree stamp. And for the tree stamp in our soft suede, we're just going to bring the branch down. So sort of right at the edge of that stitching there. And then bring our branch in here with the happy birthday one. And now we're going to get our fill stamp. Let me set this aside for a minute. So Sahara Sand is going to be our fill color for the squirrels. Now the difference with these is going to be, and I'll show you, we're going to go back to our fill stamp, not the fill stamp, we're going to go back to our outline stamp. I'm going to go for the darker color, so we're going to go back to soft suede, but we're not going to have the full image of our squirrel on our layer, okay? So, looks like I got a little something on there. What we're going to do is we're going to focus on getting the acorn in the in our little rectangle here, and then his bum is going to be off. Okay, so the whole image won't be there. So we're just going to angle this in. Okay, so mostly in, but just slightly, you know, stamped off. Okay, you just want to leave yourself enough room so that you can fit this in at the bottom. Okay, so when you're figuring out your layout, just keep that in mind. On your folder. But one thing that I absolutely love about Sahara Sand is that it's light enough that you don't have to worry about a basic white panel. You could certainly add one, but it's not necessary. Okay, and so there is our card. Now, if you want to add in an embellishment, on the finished card, you can see I added 4 of these copper dots here. So that is actually from the brushed metallic adhesive backed dots. So I had 2 of these. This is what's left over from one sheet, and then I have all of these. So I think this is the last baby that I have on here, the smaller, yeah. So I'm just gonna put that on this corner. I like the smaller one for the corners. And then let's go ahead and use these. The brown ones would also be really gorgeous. And then there's gold as well. All right, and then if you love that brushed brass look, oh my gosh, these are so beautiful. These are available in the annual catalog. I will have product links on my blog for everything that I used in today's tutorial. It will also be listed on the project sheet. Okay. All right, so there we go. Oops. Sorry, hang on. Come on. There we go. Scoot. I did find the putty for my Take Your Pick tool, so you think I'd be using it. Okay, so there we go. All right, so there is one of our cards. Let's go ahead and keep assembling. So there is the second card. Now for our third card, we have a Mossy Meadow card base. Okay, and then we're just gonna burnish that. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring in our bear and our 2 strips. Okay, so we're gonna do this about maybe a quarter or a third of the way in from the folded part of the card. I got glue on the very bottom. Let me just make sure I have a little more there. Okay, and then we're just going to glue that on. Okay, just make sure you leave yourself enough room to add your other strips on either side. Okay, and then we're going to take these 1/4 inch strips that we cut off of the card base, and we're going to add these as an accent layer here with our designer series paper. And I really thought you could do these plain, you know, you don't have to do this, but I love that timber print from the embossing folder. I just think that that really adds just a whole nother element of texture and, you know, that forest theme. Okay, and then we're gonna just line these 2 up right here. I think that looks so good. And then we're gonna pop this one up on dimensionals and layer that over. And it's so cute because it actually looks like the bear is waving to our squirrel. But just so cute. And again, if you guys have the coordinating stamps, you could do the coordinating stamps in your rectangle and that would look absolutely adorable too. Okay, so I'm just gonna grab some dimensionals here. If you guys have those big dimensionals, you could just do one big dimensional right here, but these aren't too big, so your regular dimensionals are also perfect for these. Okay, and then we're just gonna line that up just like that. Now on this version of the card, what I did was I put these as almost like berries on the branches, and then I did the bronze one on his nose. So totally up to you how you guys want to do that. But I am going to add one of these bigger copper dots up here, just kind of hanging off this smaller branch, and then we'll do 2 other copper dots, the smaller ones, toward the edge of our branch there. So cute. And on this one, I'm just going to leave his nose alone, but you could always add one of these. This is the bigger one. Or you could color it a darker brown with your Stampin' Blends too and have that 3-dimensional nose dot if you would want one. Okay, but there's that card. here are our pieces. And I'm just going to bring those templates back in one more time to show you what we did. So here is our 1 by 5 1/4 piece here. Okay. Here is our 1 and 5 1/4 piece here. Here we have our 1/2 by 5 1/2. Here's our other 1/2 by 5 1/2. And then here we have our 3 by 3 and our other 3 by 3. And when you put all of those together, you get your 6 by 6 sheet with this little piece of scrap left over, if you can think of another place where you can put a piece of designer series paper. So keep this with your designer series paper pack, and you could always use this on something else. But I really hope that you guys enjoyed this one sheet wonder project today. Again, these are with the woodland characters in them. And then this pattern is with just the branches and the tree trunks. Okay, so just so that you guys can see the difference between those, it's very slight, but just depending on the look that you want. See, so we have our animal in here, but we don't have it here. So you can see those differences. Very, very slight, but so, so cute. If you participated in a paper share, this is an ideal project for you because you only need one 6 by 6 sheet to get, well, in this case, 4 cards. You use 2 6 by 6 sheets, you get 8 cards, okay? So this is a really great way to get a big bang for the buck that you paid for your paper shares. So hope you love it. Be sure to watch the next video.